Here we go. It is Flashpoint Friday. I am so excited to bring this incredible show to you, especially with the person and the topic we are going to dive into today. The first thing we do on this Flashpoint show is we check in. I welcome you to this Friday, August 13th. At the time of this live stream, and we are going to check in with ourselves for a moment. Whatever's happened this week, whatever's happening today, honor it, learn from it, embrace it so we can move forward and maybe set an intention. What is it that you most need to get from this? Do you just need some inspiration today? Do you need to get some perspective? Do you need to know there's a next step, a next chapter? Do you need to know there's a breakthrough? Do you need to know your turnaround story can start right here? Because what we do here at Flashpoint is we create transformational experiences that lead you to your Flashpoint. Let me jump into the show. The one thing that we do to open up the show, a couple things. One, we highlight the hourglass as a reminder to be in the present moment. The present moment is all we have. And as I'm holding this hourglass and I'm watching the sand go through, it reminds me that I cannot live here in the past. It's gone. I might be able to look at it and learn from it, but I can't stay there too long. I simultaneously cannot think about what's to come too much. Sure, I can plan. Sure, I can be strategic. But when it's all said and done, when it comes out here, that's what really matters. And I'll use my own story preparing for this show. I prepare, and then my intention is to be in the moment with you as we get into the topic and the person of Maya Angelou. I think she would be proud to know that I just created a little poem. So here's we go. That's the hourglass. The next thing we highlight to open the show, if you are listening to this audibly and not seeing it visually, this is a prototype of the Thomas Edison light bulb. And this is to remind us that any attempt is still a success. As the quote goes, I did not fail. I created 10,000 ways the light bulb would not work. But lo, here is the light bulb that worked, that was in existence for 100 years. And we use it in some variation today. So think about your journey as you move forward. And then lastly, we have the ceremonial cowbell to accentuate moments of humor, lessons, and the like. Feel free to type in cowbell when it's appropriate. If you're feeling it, cowbell, here we come, and we got plenty of it because you can never have too much cowbell. Let me start this off by talking about Maya Angelou, by saying that this is my humble attempt to flash some insight, perhaps a lens to look at this amazing woman in a way you've never looked at her. Perhaps you're just finding out about Maya Angelou for the first time, and maybe you've heard little things. I will tell you this, as sure as you're listening to my voice today on this Friday, August 13th, Maya Angelou is not going away. As a matter of fact, it is my assertion that her legacy will continue to grow in the years, in the months and years to come, that will far outpass the minute time she spent on this planet. And we're going to get into that story. Let me give you some context. First, let me say hello, Mandy. I'm so glad you're here. And thank you for highlighting what we do. We just had an incredible call last night in our community. And I want to say this, our views on our platform are cresting 9,000. And that means that not just like Facebook views, it's cresting 9,000 views of 15 minutes or more. So the Facebook viewership is but everything else is expanding. So I'm glad you're here. However you're getting this show, I welcome you, and make sure you set your intention to get something from this as we dive deeper into this topic. Let me give you some context here. So Maya Angelou, if you're not sure who she is, maybe you know her. You might know her better than I am, but I might share something with you that's going to be different today. She's a poet. She's a writer. She's a memoirist. She's written her memoirs. She's written 7 autobiographies about her life. She probably could have, based on the life that she led, there could have been more, but her legacy continues to grow through not only the written word, but through the life that she led. Not only through that, through her mentorship. Because when you look and you peel it back, I'm going to share with you some other insights that you may or may not know about this incredible woman. So 167 poems. One of the most famous poems is called Still I Rise. I believe I have a little clip of that. We were getting this clip ready, this special presentation for you today. And again, I want to say this is my humble attempt to bring this to you, but I will tell you that Maya Angelou is going to be featured in my book, Flashpoint. So that's how important I feel this is. That's how much context I feel this brings to the table. Because yes, this is about Flashpoint. It's about Maya Angelou and the Flashpoint. And I am in the process of researching and putting this in the book. But I want to bring it to you now so we can learn and we may rise. Maya Angelou, out of all these things, she received the Presidential Medal of Honor. It's the highest honor that can be bestowed upon a civilian. If that gives you any context of this, that should really paint a picture. And as I said, she's going to be featured in the book. Now, let me give you the polarity. See, part of Flashpoint is the polarity principle and the contrast. Are you ready for the second part? I'm going to say it like it is. Maya Angelou was raped at age 8. Maya Angelou was almost beat up. She was chased by a hammer, chased by her father's girlfriend with a hammer. She ran away from home. She lived in a junkyard for a month. As a teenager, she lived in a junkyard for a month. She got pregnant at age 16. She was a prostitute and a sex worker. Let me jump back. She received the Presidential Medal of Honor, which is the highest award that can be bestowed upon a civilian. We must appreciate the contrast and the polarity of one's life. So when I bring you Maya Angelou, I'm not just going to celebrate the high moments. I'm going to look at the story, because the story is where the context is and the contrast, and it's where we can learn the most. Thank you, Cowbell. So the polarity principle is a part of Flashpoint. It's going to be in the book. And this is why we're diving into this. Now, I also want to say that Maya Angelou was now this is a great, and the reason why I love Maya Angelou is because she experienced the lowest of low, hate, racism. She wasn't, quote unquote, wasn't perceived as an attractive woman. Her mother was beautiful. Her mother was considered glamorous, beautiful. But Maya was not considered beautiful. But I'm going to talk to you about that beauty as we get more into this story, because I think she's absolutely beautiful. And we're going to look at a video. My team, we prepared a video. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to Jimmy. Jimmy is one of my team members. He's the one that helps me get this content ready. He helps me get this show ready, and he prepared a video that we curated and we put together about Maya Angelou, and I'm going to share it with you. And by the way, I want you to share this with people, because, you know, we're talking about a woman who was raped at age 8 and worked as a sex worker, you know, had all these things happen to her and went on to get the Presidential Medal of Honor. She's considered the Black woman's poet laureate. And here's the other context I want to add. She was the first African-American streetcar conductor in the city of San Francisco. Not to mention she was a woman at the age of 16. You may say, well, how did that happen when there was racism that was rampant? Well, let me dive into the first thing. She decided that she wanted to be a streetcar conductor. Her mother said, they don't hire African Americans, or she probably said they don't hire Black people, right? So Maya went to that office every day for a month. Would you apply for a job? Would you show up every day for 30 days? Well, that's what she did, and that's how she got the position. So I want to peel the onion back a little bit. I want to dive into the story because we're getting into halfway through the program. And I want to share with you that when I dig into the story, and right now I'm digging for the flashpoint. I'm digging for the flashpoint moment. And let me just pause for a minute. Let me grab Mandy's share here. Contrast and polarity of the from and to of a life. The from and to of a life. The from and to of a life. Many people get caught in the from. Here's what my experience with Flashpoint in the journey of life. The further you've fallen, the more you've messed up, the higher you can go. I should say, the more you can serve if you're willing to embrace it. Your former will be greater than your latter. Your latter will be greater than your former. Your latter will be greater than your former. Somebody type that in. Your latter will be greater than your former. You may want to say that out loud. My latter will be greater than my former. And here's a story that gives you that testament, that testimony to say, yes, that's what's possible. Let's dive into the story. The one thing that jumped out at me is when Maya was a teenager, she ran away from home after being chased down. She was bleeding. She was chased down with a hammer. With a hammer. I keep saying that. Maybe there's a hammer that's running. Like I'm imagining a cartoon now with a hammer running. But it was her father's girlfriend that was chasing her with a hammer. She then ran away, and she said she comes across a junkyard, and she says, well, why don't I stay in the junkyard? So she finds a car, literally falls asleep in an abandoned car, and when she wakes up, she's surrounded by all these young kids, young children, and they were all homeless. And unbeknownst to her, they had formed a community in this junkyard. They lived there. They were homeless. But what's interesting, and why this I consider like a flashpoint moment, is because in this junkyard, there was Hispanics, there was African Americans, and there was whites. And they would all go out and try to earn money. And they would come back and they would give it to the oldest boy who was the leader. They would pull the money and use it for the community, food, whatever things they would need. And what it taught her many things. Actually, let me grab my book here. I got to grab these notes. I'm back. It taught her tolerance. It taught her diversity, acceptance. She was accepted into this community. She learned how to drive, curse, and dance. You got to have a little edge there. And it really boosted her self-confidence because it also taught her self-reliance. She was there for a month, as a teenager. So this was an incredible thing and it's been said that what happened in this junkyard taught her tolerance for the rest of her days and to appreciate diversity. And there is good in people that are different. And we got something, her words are going to come across as in her latter years where you're going to see this personified, and she embodied it. So it's really powerful, really, really powerful. So I consider this like a flashpoint moment in her journey as it relates to dealing with racism and then living in this junkyard. You see what I mean? And then, and think about your life as you're doing this, as you're listening to me. What period of your life may have been your junkyard where you deviated and you got perspective on a person, a situation, person, place, or thing that you saw differently. And maybe it was in an instant. It was a paradigm shift, if you will. And you never saw life the same after that. We all have those moments. And here it's so beautifully, I mean, it's amazing, right? It's like, again, if you talk about contrast, think about it. The world can't get along. The world is spewing hate. And in this junkyard with these innocent children, they're getting along, even though they're different. Think about that, right? There's a quote from the mouth of babes. We can learn from our children. Think about that. That's really powerful. We're going to dive more when I actually lay the book out. But then, you know, her time as a prostitute and a sex worker, what did that do for her? I mean, what did she learn? What contrast did that provide? And think about dealing with what she must have dealt with in terms of self-worth, right? Electively going into that to get by. But then she never lost her dream. She never lost her dream of being an actress. She's been known to have credited for plays, TV, and movies for spanning over 50 years. Over 50 years. So I'm going to stop and play the video because it's getting late in the show. I'm going to come back and we're going to reflect on the video that I'm about to show you. And then we're going to grab some lessons. And then I'm going to share with you, you know, maybe how you can stay connected with us here at Flashpoint and the exciting things that we have going on, because we are growing and there's lots of exciting things. And my friend, if you're getting this for the first time, there is a flashpoint in your future. There's a moment when it's going to make sense. There's a moment when the goal is achieved. There's a moment of validation. There's a moment when you're going to self-actualize and realize that everything was worth it, that all the contrast, that all the your former was all for a reason, because you're going to step into a moment. Let's grab some incredible value from this right now. All right, let me grab this video for you. I just uploaded it. Here we go. Here we go.
I had a rage that I kept in my teeth. As soon as one would look at me, I would hit him or her. But my God, what scars does that leave on somebody? I don't even dare examine it myself. They're very deep. The power of hate is almost as strong as the power of love. When I go to direct a movie, I bring everyone who has ever been kind to me with me. Black, white, Asian, Spanish-speaking, Native American, gay, straight, everybody. I say, come with me. I'm going on the stage. Come with me, I need you now. Long dead, you see? So I don't ever feel I have no help. I've had rainbows in my clouds. And the thing to do, it seems to me, is to prepare yourself so that you can be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. Somebody who may not look like you, may not call God the same name you call God, if they call God at all. You see? And may not eat the same dishes prepared the way you do, may not dance your dances, or speak your language, but be a blessing to somebody. That's what I think.
Every age, I've been grateful. I talked to you about this years ago.
Yes.
Is being grateful.
Yes.
Grateful, just constantly. Get up in the morning. Thank you, Lord.
Yes.
Thank you for this day. Thank you for the light coming through that window. Thank you. Thank you that I'm breathing. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for the phone call that told me that I have the job. Thank you even for the phone call that told me I'm not wanted anymore. Thank you, because I know you have something better for me lined up. Thank you.
Out of a youth marked by pain and injustice, Dr. Maya Angelou rose with an unbending determination to fight for civil rights and inspire every one of us to recognize and embrace the possibility and potential we each hold. With her soaring poetry, towering prose, and mastery of a range of art forms, Dr. Angelou has spoken to the conscience of our nation. Her soul-stirring words have taught us how to reach across division and honor the beauty of our world.
You can shoot me with your words. You can cut me with your lies. You can kill me with your hatefulness. But just like life, I rise.
Chills. Complete and utter chills. And by the way, give Jimmy some love. He put that together. I curated it. I wanted it to come across a certain way, and I want you to get something from this. I'm going to share this with you right now. When I went through this video and I looked at this, when I looked at the earlier video when she's talking about hate is almost as powerful as love, and if you look at her and you watch her transformation, she just got more beautiful with age. And I feel like as she continued to love through hate, as she continued to pour out to the world, as she continued to be a rainbow in someone else's sky, she healed herself, she healed others, and she gained a perspective that very few people that will walk through this path of life will have. This is my humble attempt to draw light on this. I'm going to be adding her in my book. It's why I chose to put her in the book. And I feel like this woman's legacy, even though she's not physically here with us anymore, her legacy will continue to grow in ways that I don't think we can comprehend. And as we navigate, especially as we navigate through these tumultuous times where the things of the past seem to come up and visit us again, there's people who have walked it, talked it, lived it, and loved in ways that we can aspire to love. So as you watch that video that you just saw, and you watched her in the beginning going, by the way, that video was taken from Stamps, Arizona, where she grew up, where there was intense hatred displayed towards African Americans, where she was constantly on a daily basis walking through it, like almost like walking through a minefield, that if you did the wrong thing, said the wrong thing, crossed the line, bad things could happen very quickly. And then as you move forward, she talked about gratitude, the outpouring of gratitude. And you can do that today. You know, just feeling grateful for the life you've been given. And, you know, as I dug into the interview, when she received, there's two things. When she received the Medal of Honor that you saw in that video, she went in the back room and wept with gratitude. She absolutely wept with gratitude because she was so overtaken by that. So you can imagine, again, there's that contrast starting out, which appears to be nowhere, dealing with hate. And she said that in this place I lived, I experienced the depths of love and somehow the depths of hate. She didn't say it that way, but because and let me just share another theme that I'm going to be weaving into the book, is the people proximity. And the people proximity can be a really tough thing. Now, she was fortunate to have her mother who loved her immensely. And she was fortunate enough to have her grandmother, which is going to be, I'll talk about that more in the book, and how her grandmother was this disciplined, loving figure in her life, guiding her the right way, giving her grace, understanding the journey of navigating through that period of time in our history, and being able to still show up and continue to carve out that life, to still be able to grab fulfillment when it seems like the oppression is so immense and so incredible. But they did. They were able to create that and live that way. And so as I dive into the story and learn more about the grandmother, it's just incredible. Yeah, and she had a store back then. She was like an entrepreneur back in the day, and her store was very well known. But that video was taken from there when she went back to visit that place, and you can see it in her face. You can see her countenance. And then as you move forward and she begins to write. And the one thing I want to talk about is that in that video, she says, I take the pen and I move it across the scars to sharpen the point. I want you to think about that. That's a powerful metaphor when you think about the traumas that you have gone through, the life situations that you have gone through. And that metaphor of taking the pen to write and running it across the scars to sharpen the point, to further etch in the story and to put it in print, to write it, to put it out into the universe so everyone can see it. And not from an ego standpoint, from a healing standpoint. And a lot of us that are on here, and that's why we do these co-authorship books, and that's why we did this book, Flashpoint, Your Turnaround Story Starts Here, which went Amazon bestseller. Why? Because people are, as they shared their story, they heal and they help other people heal. And no matter what level you're at, it doesn't matter. And for some people, it may not be healing. It could be growth. It could be you're stagnant. And so we look at people like Maya Angelou to gain the perspective, that we can shine a greater light, a broader light, into our own lives. It's like if somebody sent you out into a dark place and they gave you a little candle and you're walking around, you're trying to see where you are, right? These stories like Maya Angelou is like giving you a floodlight. It's like flipping on the floodlights. It's like, or the sun coming up, and then you can see everything clearly. That's why these stories are so important. And that's what we can glean and learn from them. And so this is an incredible, incredible story of Maya Angelou, who will be featured in the book. I'm going to dig deeper to bring those flashpoint moments in her life to you. But even as it sits today, my humble attempt to cover something, let's face it, I'm a white male living in the United States and can't really comprehend what it was like to live as an African-American woman growing up in that time frame. But my willingness to go and look at it gives me the perspective so I can see greater and I can enhance my message and I can share things like the polarity principle, contrast of coming from the gutter, the bad, the dark, and then moving to the other side, because every story has two sides of it. And some of you listening, you may be on the former side, not able to see the latter. And you're wondering, how do I get to the light? How do I get to the light? And if you look at Maya Angelou's story and you look at her face, the themes, what I shared with you earlier, love shines in her eyes, gratitude, tolerance, acceptance, forgiveness, self-reliance, cooperation, and being willing to write your story down, even if it's only for you. So we have 1 minute left. I want to thank you for joining me. I'm going to share with you a couple things. One, we are looking for guests for the TV show. I have an application for that. I'm going to put that in the show notes here in the link. Next Tuesday, I'm going to be joined by Laurel Langmeyer. We're going to be talking about making money. That's next Tuesday. That's a special show. That's 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. Next Tuesday, I don't have the date in my head, but it is next Tuesday at 2:00. And then I also want to share with you the book, your Flashpoint. Mandy's one of the authors in the book. She's with us here now. She has an incredible story as well. So I trust if this served you today, let me know it served you. Let me know you got something from this. And as always, share this with somebody who needs to hear it. My name's Austin. This is Flashpoint. Your turnaround story starts here. We create transformational experiences that lead you to your Flashpoint. Thank you very much. Have an outstanding Friday. Bye for now.